Hello everyone, I am Prabir Kumar Mitra from Udaipur Solar Observatory, which is a division of PRL Ahmedabad. In this talk, I will present multi-wavelength analysis and modeling of the largest solar flare in the solar cycle 24, or in other words, in the past decade. Before going into the details of the work, let us very briefly introduce the Sun as a star. It is our nearest star. From the point of view of astronomy, it is a very ordinary star, but still it has a diameter which is about 109 times the Earth's diameter, or about 109 Earths can be fitted across the Sun. The Sun is about 33,000 times massive than the Earth. Presently, it is in its middle ages, and still about 4.6 billion years has been passed, and similar time is also remaining, that is estimated. The mean distance from the Earth to the Sun is about 15 crore kilometers. The temperature of the visible Sun is about 6000 Kelvin. And by visible Sun, I mean this layer. If we go and outside and look at the Sun, this is something we will observe. This part is called photosphere because most of the light comes from this layer. Now there are two other layers of the Sun that can be observed, mostly during total solar eclipses or other ways. And this is one example of solar example that occurred mostly in 2017 or 18, I'm not sure. But in this image, we can see a very prominent but very thin, mostly reddish, bright annular structure surrounding the solar disk. That part is called chromosphere. And above the chromosphere, there is the outermost layer of the Sun, which is called corona. Now, coming back to the photospheric image of the Sun, we can see that there are few dark spots on the disk. These dark spots are called sunspots, and these are very important in the context of solar eruptions or flares. This is another example of solar disk photospheric image containing sunspots, and this part is zoomed in this panel, where we can see that the dark spots have actually some structures. There are very dark structures at the core, and there are some gray regions outside the core dark region and connecting the bright surrounding region. So these gray regions are called penumbra, and the inside most dark regions are called umbra. And as a whole, this is called this one such structure is called a sunspot. A collection of sunspot is called active region. These features look dark because they have less temperature, while in the surrounding region temperature is about 6000 Kelvin. On the sunspots, the temperature can be as low as 4000 Kelvin. That is because magnetic field strength is very high in the sunspot regions. Now, to understand the polarity of the magnetic field, we have to look into the corresponding magnetograms. This is a magnetogram corresponding to this white light image. The dark regions in the magnetogram correspond to negative polarity magnetic field, and the bright white regions correspond to positive polarity magnetic field. As we can see, there are one-to-one match about sunspot regions and their magnetogram strong magnetic regions. Interestingly, these strong magnetic regions on photosphere are connected by magnetic loops that are extended into the corona. And in the coronographic EUV images, these loops can be seen as bright structures. So in this image, we can see that there are some bright structures. These are magnetic field lines that are connecting foot points. So as I said, the solar eruptions are very interesting phenomena. And mostly three types of solar eruptions we mean when we talk about eruptive phenomena. They are prominence or filament eruptions, and then coronal mass ejections, and then flares. Now, prominence or filaments are structures that are composed of relatively cool and dense plasma, and in association with magnetic field, these heavy structures are levitated in the corona. In this image, this is AIA-UV image taken from the Solar Dynamics Observatory telescope. We can see that there is a dark loop-like structure, and we also get an impression that this structure has a height from the background disk. This is a good example of filament or prominence. When this structure erupts, it can still be observed in coronographic images in the interplanetary medium, and then that part is called CME or coronal mass ejection. In this SOHO coronagraph images, Soho Lasco C2 coronagraph images. A great example of CME is shown, and multiple structures inside a CME can also be noted. And when these filament structures are being erupted, we can see sudden enhanced brightness in the disk region of the sun. That sudden flash is basically called flares, which is nothing but sudden enhancement of localized brightness. From this image, we can see how localized a flare can be. During a flare, catastrophic energy release occurs, and the released energy can be as high as 10 to the power 32 arc. And this makes the solar flares the most powerful events in the entire solar system. A flare can last from few minutes to several hours, depending on the size and energy released during a flare. And even more important thing is that during the flare, the energy that is released, it is across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. So from gamma ray to radio wavelengths, there will be some signatures in each of the electromagnetic regime. Here I have shown 3 images, all in 3 different wavelength channels, and we can see that there are different features of flares. And but one thing that is a bit clear from this image is that there are 2 ribbon-like structures here and here, also here. These, because of these structures, this kind of flares are called 2 ribbon flares or standard flare. To explain such standard flares, a standard flare model was proposed that was based on these 4 papers, and from taking the initials of these names, the standard flare model is also called CSHKP model. It says that a pre-existence of a filament or prominence is required to produce a flare, and the prominence material, the prominence structure is shown by this twisted large loop. Magnetically, this kind of structures are called flux ropes. So these structures are anchored in the lower chromospheric regions and extended high into the corona, and they are also enveloped by other coronal loops, which are also anchored in the lower chromospheric regions. Now, if somehow by some region this flux rope or the prominence structure started to erupt or moving upward, then that will create a vacuum just beneath the erupting structure. And this, to fulfill this void, the plasma structures from outside will rush into it, and along with there is this condition called Frosinone condition that says that along with the plasma, magnetic field line will come close to each other. And then there, because of this excess magnetic pressure, there will be a X-type point, which is shown here. And that in that point, magnetic reconnection will occur. Magnetic reconnection is a process where magnetic field lines realign or reconnect with themselves or other structures. For example, for this case, this magnetic structure, this magnetic loop will reconnect, and 2 separate magnetic structures will be formed. One will be this circular structure that will add up with the prominence material, and the other one will be this kind of closed loops, which is also shown by this here, these loops. Now at the X point where magnetic reconnection is taking place, magnetic energy will very rapidly dissipate into heat and particle acceleration. Now that heat will be observed in imaging processes. Also, that particle acceleration energy will energize mostly electrons or other particles also up to about relativistic speed. And those particles will be trapped in the newly formed magnetic field lines, and they will be collided toward the lower chromospheric regions. Well, they will collide with the cool material. Now, when these relativistic particles, let me mention one more time, the speed of these particles are relativistic, about c/3. So the travel time from here to here are milliseconds, which are we can omit that time scale easily. And when those electrons are coming, they emit microwave emission from these coronal lines, and from the collision of those electrons with this cool material, hard X-ray sources will be formed by the process called thick target Bremsstrahlung. In this plot, we can see 2 foot point hard X-ray sources. These 2 foot points are coming from one of these foot points and the other of the such foot points. And also there is another X-ray source which are coming from this coronal region. Now, along with the hard X-ray sources, from the collision, there will be a rise in temperature, and slowly we will be able to observe the entire field line structures, all the successive foot points in thermal line also, and a set of parallel ribbons will be formed, as we can see from here. As a matter of fact, in this image on the parallel ribbons, we also see these two blue dots, which are nothing but and they will slowly fill the newly formed magnetic field lines, post-reconnection field lines, and very hot electrons trapped in these field lines will emit soft X-ray emission, which can be seen by this red fuzzy structure. And after some time, the temperature will be less than the initial case, and they will not emit soft X anymore. Instead, they will emit EUV, and then they will find this type of dark, very dense chromospheric arcade, or which are called flare arcade or post-reconnection arcade. And along the foot point of this arcade, these ribbons can still be found. If we look at this arcade from an side angle, we can see that this kind of cusp-like structures. So as a whole, this standard flare model is successful in explaining most of the flare observations. But to be complete, let me say that not all the types of flares are standard flare or standard two ribbon flares. But as of now, we will be contained in this kind of flares only. Now, the largest flare in the entire solar cycle 24 or in the past decade, that occurred on 2017, September 6, from the active region, which is called NOAA 12673. In these two plots, I have shown a overall evolution of the active region, both in white light images and the corresponding magnetograms. We can see that this active region emerged is very simple one. There is a very localized sunspot, mostly of positive polarity. But with time, it became more and more complex very quickly. As we can see, on the 6th September, it was most complex, both is in its area and its magnetic structures. And after that, it started to decay. And we are interested in these images on 6th September. What happened is, in this plot, this is the magnetogram of the same active region on 6th September. Let us not discuss this panel right now. We'll discuss it later on. So what I did, I took a slit from along the most prominent region of this active region, and I plotted magnetic field strength along it by this green line, as well as I calculate the magnetic gradient, which is shown by this purple color. We can see that the magnetic gradient was highest at this level, at this line, where negative polarity changed into positive polarity, which is also reflected in this curve. So this line is called polarity inversion line, and the parallel ribbons that we can found, they are usually along the opposite side of the polarity inversion line only. Now, if we look at the corresponding white light images, we'll see that there are umbras which are fragmented and separate umbras, but they share a common penumbra. So this type of active regions are called delta sunspot, and these are the most complex type of delta sunspots. Now, if we look at the flare light curves, these two light curves are given by GOES 1 to 8 angstrom integrated and GOES 0.5 to 4 angstrom integrated. So these are soft X-ray light curves, and these are considered to be the standard measurement for flare classes. We can see that on these days, 6 September, there were actually two X-class flares. Now, X-class flares are the largest kind of flares, the most energetic type of flares, and this X9.3 flares is the strongest one. As I have mentioned here, it is the largest flare. Also, I plotted the EUV light curves in the same time, and they match temporarily quite well with the soft X-ray light curve also. And there is another interesting bump at the decay phase of the X9.3 flare, which I will explain in the imaging part. So if we look at the images, EUV images of the active region prior to the flare, we'll immediately notice that there was a bright structure which resembles a reverse S type structure, S. So this S or reverse S type structures that can be found both in EUV images, also in soft X-ray images. These are called coronal sigmoids. and they are supposed to produce large flares and also sigmoid. There was a particularly bright loop which extended during the flare and which was extended along the polarity inversion line. This type of bright extended region in the context of solar physics are called hot channels. These are also different types of observational aspects of flux ropes that I'll come again later on. And so this is a very enhanced emission was coming from this bright core region that gave rise to X2.2 flare. And the next case, the the largest flare, we see that prior to the onset of the flare, the sigmoid was extended spatially. And similar to the previous flare, in this case also, the flare was initiated or triggered from this central location, from the same hot channel. And in the relatively cooler images, or this AIA chromospheric 94 angstrom images, we can see that a loop-like structure was erupted completely. These structures are called filament structures, and immediately followed by the eruption was the formation of very localized a set of parallel ribbons. These ribbons slowly they increased in their separation, and in the latter part, the entire active region was encompassed by dense post-flare arcades, which can be also observed in this image. And also, this very bright emission from this post-flare arcade gave rise to the delayed bump that I explained in the previous slide. Here, this bump. So this bump was coming from that extended post-flare arcade. As a matter of fact, this kind of parallel ribbons or two different sets of arcades, this is a new observations that we reported in our paper. And then we did magnetic modeling of the corona, or the coronal magnetic field extrapolation, to find out exactly how was the structure of the active region. Immediately we find that there was a set of very highly sheared field lines shown in blue color in all these four panels. These are nothing but flux ropes, and these flux ropes were observed as a hot channel or the filament in different wavelength observations. This flux rope was connected by closed magnetic loops of different heights, which are shown in different colors. An interesting phenomena was observed here at the eastern part of the flux rope, where for a particular very localized region, there was no magnetic field lines at all. Particularly, this small spot was surrounded by magnetic field lines in all four directions, but no magnetic structure there. This kind of structure is called magnetic null points. A similar structure is shown here. So observationally also we found that this null point region was the location where this flare was triggered, and immediately this reconnection here triggered the flux rope, which was at the central part of the active region. So these two images are just before the first X-class flare, and these two images are just before the second X-class flare. During the second X-class flare, you also see a kind of X-type magnetic structure in association with a null point. And also, if we compare this flux rope with this flux rope is a bit enhanced. So it means that during the first X-class flare, this flux rope did not erupt, but it was activated and extended. And during the second flare, this flux rope or the filament erupted completely, and the post-flare arcade was formed. Then we also calculated the energy budget in the active region. As I said, this huge amount of magnetic energy is released. So before the onset of the flare, this energy is stored. They are stored in the term we called free energy. This is the energy that can be released during a flare. And in this plot, I have shown the variation of normalized free energy as a function of time. Just before, and this is the GOES soft X-ray light curve showing the onset times of the two X-class flares. In just before the onset of the first flare, we can see that about 82% of the free energy was stored in the active region, which reduced up to about 76% by the end of the first flare. Then they started growing again and reached about 80% one more time before the onset of the second X plus flare, and by the end of the second X plus flare, the energy release decreased up to about 70%. So this 10% energy release gave rise to the largest flare. So we can understand how important this 70% this energy is in the context of flare studies. But by the end of the largest flares, or by the end of 2 successive X plus flares within an interval of 3 hours, the storage was about 70%. This is very high if we compare with other flares, the storage is about 30-35%, but here we found about 70%. So it was very excessive. And to summarize, on the 2017 September 6, this active region produced 2 X plus flares within a short interval. This is very astonishing on its own. Particularly, the second flare was the largest flare in the entire solar cycle. The sigmoidal active region, or the active region associated with the flare, was a sigmoidal one. It had a small filament or flux rope at its core, which was activated during the first X plus flare and completely erupted during the second X plus flare. Coronal modeling suggests the pre-existence of a flux rope at the location of the filament and magnetic null points near to the flux rope prior to both the flares, and we believe that both the flares were initiated from those null points. And the active region was a delta type 1, which means that the storage of magnetic energy was high, but particularly the very high storage, that it was a very special case in this active region. They could easily afford the occurrence of 2 X plus flares, and not only that, from this active region itself, 2 more X plus flares and many small class flares were occurred, and that was possible only because of this excessive high storage of this energy in this active region. So that was all I had to say in this talk. Thank you.